In the year 31 BCE, the fate of the Roman world was decided in a dramatic naval confrontation off the coast of Actium, a promontory in western Greece. This was the Battle of Actium, a clash that would end the Roman Republic and herald the rise of its first emperor, Augustus. The roots of this epic struggle trace back over a decade to the assassination of Julius Caesar in 44 BCE. His death plunged Rome into chaos, sparking a power struggle among his former allies and heirs. The Second Triumvirate, a political alliance of Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus, was formed to defeat Caesar's assassins. But this uneasy partnership soon dissolved into rivalry. Mark Antony allied himself with Cleopatra VII, the powerful queen of Egypt, forging a bond that alienated many Romans. Meanwhile, Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and heir, consolidated power in Rome and the West. The stage was set for a decisive confrontation. Narrator: by 31 BCE, Antony and Cleopatra had gathered a formidable fleet of about 500 ships and 70,000 troops at Actium, hoping to control the eastern Mediterranean. Opposing them was Octavian's fleet, smaller in number with roughly 400 ships, but more agile and expertly commanded by his admiral, Marcus Agrippa. Octavian's forces strategically occupied key locations like Patrae and Corinth, cutting off Antony's supply lines and isolating his forces. Desertions began to weaken Antony's position, forcing him to take bold action. On the 2nd of September, 31 BCE, the fate of the Roman world was to be decided in the narrow waters of the Ambracian Gulf, off the western coast of Greece. Here, the fleets of two titans, Mark Antony and Octavian, would clash in a battle that would shape history. Mark Antony commanded a fleet of approximately 500 ships, many large and heavily armed with towering fighting platforms bristling with archers and marines. His forces were bolstered by the Egyptian squadron, led by Queen Cleopatra herself, whose presence symbolized the alliance between Rome and Egypt. Opposing them was Octavian's fleet of about 400 ships, smaller and more maneuverable, expertly commanded by his admiral Marcus Agrippa, a master of naval strategy. For months prior to the battle, Agrippa had skillfully blockaded Antony's forces, cutting off their supply lines and confining them within the Gulf. Antony's troops were weakened by sickness and desertion, his crews stretched thin, and morale flagging. Despite having the larger fleet, Antony's ships were less agile, and many were undermanned. In contrast, Octavian's crews were well-trained, disciplined, and rested, giving them a crucial edge. As the battle commenced around midday, Antony attempted a bold maneuver to outflank Octavian's fleet. His strategy was to use the size and strength of his larger galleys to break through the enemy lines. Antony's ships advanced through the narrow exit of the Gulf, aligned to take advantage of a favorable wind that had just begun to blow from the northwest. The battle quickly became a brutal melee. Octavian's smaller vessels darted in and out of range, using their agility to ram Antony's ships and board them for hand-to-hand combat. Archers and ballistae on both sides unleashed volleys of arrows and stones, turning the sea into a chaotic battlefield of smoke, fire, and shattered wood. Meanwhile, Cleopatra's squadron, positioned at the rear of Antony's formation and carrying the royal treasure, played a pivotal role. At a critical moment, as the battle reached its fiercest intensity, Cleopatra's ships hoisted their purple sails and abruptly turned away from the fight, sailing toward the open sea. Antony, deeply attached to Cleopatra, and perhaps hoping to preserve the alliance and their shared cause, made a fateful decision. Believing the battle lost, or that Cleopatra's retreat was part of a planned escape, he broke from the front lines and followed her, leaving the majority of his fleet exposed and leaderless. This sudden withdrawal caused confusion and panic among Antony's remaining forces. Many ships, deprived of command and support, were quickly overwhelmed by Octavian's fleet. The battle turned decisively in Octavian's favor as his ships closed in from all sides, capturing or sinking large numbers of Antony's vessels. The remnants of Antony's fleet retreated back into the Gulf, many ships burning or abandoned. Over 5,000 men were killed or drowned in the fighting. Antony himself escaped with Cleopatra and a small escort, fleeing toward Egypt to regroup. Octavian and Agrippa, victorious, made little effort to pursue the fleeing leaders, instead maintaining their blockade to prevent further escape. Within days, the remaining forces loyal to Antony surrendered, effectively ending the naval phase of the civil war. The Battle of Actium was not just a clash of fleets, it was a turning point that ended the Roman Republic's final civil war and paved the way for Octavian's transformation into Augustus, Rome's first emperor. The battle demonstrated the crucial importance of strategy, leadership, and morale in warfare, and the dramatic role personal loyalties played in shaping history. This expanded narrative draws on detailed historical accounts to vividly portray the battle's tactics, key moments, and consequences, providing a rich, immersive experience for viewers. It highlights the strategic brilliance of Octavian's forces, the desperation and challenges faced by Antony, and the dramatic turning point triggered by Cleopatra's retreat. Antony's remaining forces surrendered, and his armies soon followed. The defeat at Actium shattered Antony's power. He and Cleopatra fled to Egypt, where their final days were marked by despair and defeat. In 30 BCE, both took their own lives, ending the Ptolemaic dynasty and Egypt's independence. Octavian emerged as the undisputed master of the Roman world. In 27 BCE, the Roman Senate bestowed upon him the honorific title Augustus, meaning the revered one. Though he maintained the facade of republican governance, Augustus wielded supreme power, marking the birth of the Roman Empire. Augustus embarked on sweeping reforms that stabilized and transformed Rome. He restructured the legal system, established a standing army loyal to the emperor, and initiated an ambitious building program that reshaped the city into a symbol of imperial grandeur. His reign ushered in the Pax Romana two-century era of relative peace and prosperity that allowed Roman culture, law, and influence to flourish across the Mediterranean. The Battle of Actium also left a lasting cultural legacy. It inspired poets like Virgil, whose epic Aeneid celebrated Augustus's victory as a triumph of order over chaos. Monuments and artworks commemorated the battle, reinforcing Augustus's image as the bringer of peace and stability. To commemorate his victory, Augustus founded the city of Nicopolis, City of Victory, near the battlefield. The Battle of Actium was more than a military engagement. It was a turning point that ended the Roman Republic and began the Age of Empire under Augustus, a ruler whose legacy shaped the course of Western history for centuries to come.